So the link to sign in will be put in chat, and then you just click sign in, and that is how we'll take attendance for the meeting. Okay, great. With the recording started, then we will go ahead and call the meeting to order since it is 10 o'clock. And for roll call introductions, currently we have 24 people on the call. 25, we had Cindy just join us, which is great. We need her for next item on the agenda. And again, attendance is taken through the sign in on the 911 Advisory Task Force site. So please make sure you sign in so we can track your attendance. We are asking individuals to hold their comments if you are not a voting member of the ESInet user group until we get to public comments at the end of the meeting. So for a project update, Cindy, if you're ready, we will turn it over to you so you can give us a status of the ESInet.
Sure. Unfortunately, I don't know that a ton has changed. We have 2 PSAPs remaining at this point, which is Cheyenne Mountain and Cheyenne Mountain and Shriver. Buckley did convert to the ESInet. However, their alley has not moved yet. We're still having trouble with the alley connections. We tried testing with Buckley again yesterday, and the pinouts they'd gotten from their vendor weren't working. So we're continuing to work with them on the alley connection. Cheyenne Mountain is moving to be a remote off of El Paso Teller. And I know, Wes, you mentioned you got the request to order the circuits to connect El Paso
Yes.
Teller and Cheyenne Mountain. So that work is in progress to connect those Cheyenne Mountain to the El Paso Teller network. And once that's in place, we'll be able to test Cheyenne Mountain and pull out the circuits we'd originally placed for them to be a standalone site. But once that connectivity is in, they should move quickly. And then we just have Shriver as the remaining PSAP that has not migrated.
Were the issues on moving Cheyenne as a remote off of El Paso Teller, is it due to problems with the circuit, the connectivity, their CPE, or just a better resilience?
No, that's just the decision they made. They work primarily they work with Peterson anyway. If Peterson's taking calls, Cheyenne Mountain isn't. And right now Cheyenne Mountain's calls have actually all been routing to El Paso for months. Cheyenne hasn't been answering them directly for probably a year now. And Peterson is already a remote off of El Paso Teller's network. So it just brings them into line. Basically, they were the lone standout. Most of the time, their calls were being taken by El Paso anyway.
Okay.
But they were originally set up as a standalone site, so we were continuing with that, and had planned to rack equipment there, and had been delayed just due to issues with getting access to the site, finding space for the rack, getting power. And the transition of resources at the site we kept having to start over with explaining what we needed and getting access. So I think this in the long run will work better anyway, because it's essentially how they've been operating.
And then what about for Shriver? What exactly is going on there, and is there any opportunity to do something similar with them?
Shriver hasn't expressed any interest, West. Have they talked with you about it at all?
No, I know they have spoken with Nancy lately, and that's been pretty challenging. I know that Nancy's on the call. If she could kindly give us an update on the latest communication, that'd be great.
Is she on?
Hello, Nancy. Oh, sorry, darling.
Primarily, I think we've struggled with even getting access to Shriver.
Yeah, they changed they had headcount changes over there at Shriver, and Nancy was continuing to go back there and start from scratch again. But Nancy, I know that you're on the phone. You're on mute. Can you update the group here, please, for Shriver?
She might not be able to talk. I have trouble sometimes talking on Google Meets.
Well, if there's something that we can do to help with Schreiber, let me know, and we'll see what we can do on just getting contact and some continuity moving forward. I think I may have some contacts that could assist us, but it'd be good to know exactly what the latest communication is before I reach out to them.
Yeah, we did do that. And in fact, and I know that Daryl had some contacts, and we did speak with some folks, I believe, that were connected back in on the East Coast with that. But it's a challenging situation, get them to move.
I think I saw somebody from DISA join the call today.
Yeah, this is Kevin Brown, DISA. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on your time zone.
Okay, Nancy can't get off of mute. She's so she's IMing me. She said Shriver is testing all of the on-site fiber, and Ken Davis is assisting them with that. They anticipate they'll be ready for installation in 30 days.
Okay, great. And Kevin, are you the point of contact for this project then?
Yeah, so I'm at DISA. So I mean, if we get a little hung up like we did early on with Shriver, I can kind of reach down to some folks at the Air Force and help. It sounds like I just joined the call a little bit late here. Sorry, guys. It sounds like initially Shriver was still kind of being difficult, but just based on what I heard in the last 30 seconds, it sounds like the lanes of communication are open and there's some progress being made there. Is that correct?
Yeah, she said Nancy's been working with, and I'm going to butcher this name, but Everick Ulibarri.
Okay.
If you recognize that name?
I do not recognize that name.
And that he's been very responsive.
Okay, excellent.
So those are our last two remaining sites to move to the ESInet, and like I said, working with Buckley to resolve the alley so we can get that moved.
It sounds like you had pretty good success getting that sorted out in the last couple of days.
We had a little bit of success yesterday, but we couldn't get both sides up, and we couldn't get the pinouts. It sounds like they might have an issue with the Digibox on one side, because we could get one side to work but not the other.
Got it.
But,
okay. And I think they're talking to Motorola about what changes they may have to make in the cable or in that configuration to get that to work. So
yeah, so they've been working on it. We're making progress. We should get that one resolved here quickly.
Had we discussed Cheyenne Mountain before I joined?
Yeah, the Cheyenne Mountain's moving to be a remote off of El Paso Teller. The request came in to order circuits to make that connectivity between those two locations. As soon as that connectivity is in place, we'll be able to go ahead and schedule testing with them because we won't need to rack any equipment for them. And once that's done, we'll go ahead and disconnect the circuits we had put in originally for the ESInet directly to them. So
Do we know how many call taker positions are going to go in out there? Is it 2?
Hang on, let me pull up my tracker. Okay, hang on. Cheyenne Mountain. Yes, it's 2. So they have 2 concurrent sessions right now. So when we'll build out the Cheyenne Mountain URI and 2 concurrent sessions.
So do we know if arrangements have been made so when someone generates a call from one of the government extensions on Cheyenne Mountain, that call is in, I'm guessing within the voice switch at Cheyenne, they're going to route those out to Lumen and be delivered to El Paso Teller and then distributed back to those call taking positions. Has location information been in that conversation so they know the location of those phone sets?
None of the location delivery changes. Voice call path would change, but the alley databases remain the alley databases. We change how we're accessing them
for the phone set to Cheyenne.
I don't know if the base comes through this network or if those 911 calls route separately. A lot of times, like on Buckley, the on base 911 calls come in separate.
Yeah,
And
go
all
directly
Buckley is
to the
getting
911
through
system
this
up there.
network is wireless calls transferred from Aurora, essentially. And I imagine
So
Cheyenne Mountain might be the same way, where their on-base calls come to them directly.
Yeah, I think that is the case, Cindy. Most of the military bases are Sally's, standalone alleys for the wireline.
And they're basically a completely separate network that doesn't, yeah.
So
yeah,
when
understood. So I'm just
you
so if they don't make a change in, so if they stay with the way it is today, so they had a Vesta system out there, have had for several years, and the calls from government extensions were going directly to that Vesta system.
They would
So
continue
now
to do
if
that.
calls are going to, so that's for the government extensions. And I think, I don't know if they ever had CAMA circuits in place to be able to transfer wireless calls into that system. But if they're going to get positions off of El Paso Teller, are they then effectively going to have two different call takings? So one being Vesta for the government initiated calls, and whatever El Paso Teller has, Viper or whatever for the.
No, they have Central Square, but it would be
Okay.
So their calls are going to route through the El Paso network, but it's going to still go to Cheyenne Mountain and end up at Cheyenne Mountain's call handling equipment. I don't know if they're switching out to be on the same Central Square system that El Paso Teller's on, or if they're going to maintain their Vesta. All it is a networking element. Instead of us delivering calls directly to that site, they're going to route to the host nodes. And there's, what, 6 PSAPs in El Paso Teller, maybe more. To go back and look at my list, but there's only 2 host network nodes in that, and all of the other sites are considered remotes off of that. There's unique URIs for each of those PSAP locations, so the call, once it hits that host node, the host node knows where it needs to go and it sends it there. So in the background at the PSAP, you would essentially never realize or notice the difference as to whether the call is coming to you directly or going through a host remote situation.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that we have all call sources, covered in this, and primarily that being, the government landlines that are on a private switch at Cheyenne Mountain. Where are those going to get answered? How are those going to get answered?
There should be no impact to those, and I'll make sure we put that into test.
So
Yeah.
Cindy, you said something a minute ago that I may have heard wrong. I just want to clarify. We have a PSLE only site as well. So what you're talking about is a PSLE only PSAP, and that is taking 911 calls off of that internal PBX switch. It is routed through the Lumen network. I thought I heard you say it wouldn't be. It would all be routed and handled through the PBX equipment.
So on these bases, like Buckley and Cheyenne Mountain, typically the calls that are generated from landlines on base don't come back through us.
Are you sure on that? Because on most of the PBXs as they're configured, when somebody dials 9 or 911, it is going out. Are people on base not dialing 911?
I believe they are.
But it's closed into its own PBX dialing platform, typically, Kimberly, on military bases.
Okay.
So they operate uniquely, and those calls stay in-house to them and don't come out. So like I said, I know Buckley for the ESInet only is getting wireless transfers essentially from Aurora.
Right.
So wireless calls made on base are picked up by Aurora, and then when Aurora identifies them as being on base at Buckley, transfers them to the Buckley dispatch.
That's for wireless calls, right? So
right.
But the
Cheyenne
government
Mountain should be the same. Cheyenne Mountain should be very similar to that.
Yeah,
I'd like to better understand, because I thought you told me the early part of this that they're going to put call taking positions at Cheyenne. So that would effectively mean 2 different call taking systems, One being the Vesta that's taking the government-based landline calls, and then Central Squared from El Paso Teller that'd be taking the wireless calls. Maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, no, we're not doing anything with their on-premise equipment. I just don't know if they're changing to be on the same equipment as El Paso Teller. I don't know that they can be a remote off of that Central Square network without switching to Central Square, but I wouldn't expect them, unless for some reason they want to maintain both the Vesta and the Central Square.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
not to get too much further into it on this call, is there a way we could set up a separate call with the folks at Cheyenne and El
Yeah.
Paso Teller to understand how that's going to be architected?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can do that. I've got the El Paso contact that I ordered the circuit for, which we ordered that at the beginning of last week.
Okay.
So,
So-
yeah,
I think it would be great too, Wes and Cindy, if you can generate a call flow diagram for them as it relates to landline and the wireless for each of these sites, so they understand where it's going to be routed, if it's not going to be leaving the base, or if it's going to be and then delivered to another PSAP and then they're going to receive it on a transfer.
Yeah, I can work with them to see what we can put together.
Okay, that would be great.
Hey, Cindy, you've got my contact information. I've been in the loop with you on Buckley, so
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
perfect. Okay. And then, so Shriver, do you need any help with that right now, or it sounds like it's moving along? Okay.
It's moving along. It sounds like it's going to be another month-ish, so it'll probably be the end of February for that site before we can rack the equipment and then schedule the testing there. But
Okay.
it is moving.
Well, just keep me in the loop like you've done with Buckley, and if we hit any, hurdles, maybe we can help kind of break through a log jam there. So.
Thank you.
Perfect. You're welcome.
Great, thanks. So the next item would be issues for migrated PSAPs. So items that you're tracking, Cindy, for the migrated over PSAPs.
The only
lingering.
open issue I have right now is Aspen and Vail, and how the calls are routed through that geodiverse network. Right now the network is set up, all the calls are routing through the Vail side. And I know Aspen would like their calls to route through their network side primarily, and only route through the Vail side if their network side is down. So there was some discussion before the holidays about that. And Vicky is setting up a meeting with Aspen, Vail, and Entrado to discuss the configuration on the ESInet and see if there's any changes we can make. We'll probably need to pull Motorola in too, because I think the CPE call handling equipment might have to do some prepending of routes if they want to force traffic down one side. But I spoke with Vicky this morning. She's going to get that meeting set up so that we can have that conversation and get that going.
Okay.
And then there's also an open project with Cheyenne Wells and Kit Carson. Kit Carson is going to be taking over all the calls for Cheyenne Wells, and that is scheduled to take place next week. And they're also upgrading their equipment today. Kit Carson.
Okay.
So.
And
then
what
I
about...
had, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I said, and I had one other item just to bring awareness that there is a new area code coming to Colorado this year. And I'm not sure if everyone is aware of that, but any of the PSAPs on PGMs, LPGs, particularly if they're still doing 8-digit Annie and Alley dips, there may be some work we need to do to add this area code into the MPD table.
And what is the area code?
983.
And do we have a date?
I don't have a date yet.
Which area of the state will that apply to?
I don't think I've been told what area it's going in.
My understanding is it's going to be in the metro area because
That's what I thought,
we're
yeah.
running out of 303 and 720.
That's what I thought. I was looking at the chain and it keeps mentioning Denver Metro, but it doesn't specifically say that that's where it's going, but that makes sense.
That is correct. It will be Denver Metro.
What about all of the pending transfer issues? So are they resolved? Are we having pending transfer issues? I know that AdCom had a handful. How about all the issues at Summit, Vail? Are all the
I've-
transfers resolved? No further issues? Nothing opened in that area?
I believe on the call in December, we closed the Vail Aspen, the Vail transfer issues that they weren't having them anymore.
Okay.
And Summit, I haven't heard. Summit in Adams County, I believe those issues are resolved. I haven't had any more reports of transfer issues.
So Jerry, do you want to go ahead and tell us what you're struggling with?
Yeah, so we basically thank you, Kimberly. Sorry. Yeah, we're still trying to figure out why we can't transfer calls to, like, for example, ski patrol and regular 911. Sorry, regular transfer 911 call to a 9-digit, 10-digit phone number.
So you're still having transfer issues, but only to 10-digit.
Yeah, I just to clarify, we never had any issues with 911 transfers. And so it's so the same issue we had, Cindy. We're still having it. We made some changes last week, and we're monitoring now to see how that's gonna play out. And so basically, what we did is we raised the for lack of a better term, the volume on some of our gateways because they thought that maybe the dial tone was not being captured by the new equipment, and so it was not capturing some of the numbers. So, for example, when we were trying to transfer somebody to ski patrol, we would end up at somebody's personal cell phone number or a bank or something like that, completely random, because some of the digits were being missed. But right now I guess right now we're kind of testing to see how those changes are if they're good, if they're bad, just kind of monitoring right now.
And Jerry, just to clarify really quick, is it 10-digit to 10-digit, or is it you receive a 911 call and you're trying to transfer 911 to 10-digit?
911 to a 10-digit.
Okay, that's what I thought, that it's 911 to 10-digit
Yeah.
was the majority of the issues. I know there was other sporadic ones of 10-digit to 10-digit, but I think the primary issue I was tracking was 911 to 10-digit.
And
Correct.
there's some legacy things we tried to clean up, but it's out. If it's the 10-digit in Moffat County, which is the only one that you're talking about, I believe, Jerry, is that correct?
No. So it's basically all 10 digits. So
Okay.
sometimes we try to transfer to CSP, right? But sometimes we're trying to transfer to ski patrol. So, for example, if somebody is injured on the hill, it's faster for a ski patroller to get to them, right? So 911 comes in, let's say somebody hit a tree, and what we do is we try to get in contact with ski patrol. So they can tell them, hey, such and such person is under chair number, whatever. So that transfer there doesn't, we end up in a bank or we end up on somebody's personal cell phone number. And what we've kind of determined is either sometimes some of the numbers are getting skipped or dialed twice. So, for example, if you do 453-1261, it'll do 4453. One of the numbers would get kind of repeated in that sequence.
Yeah, so when I looked at it, 6-7 months ago, Jerry, that's what I was seeing was a lot of double digits that would throw the dial string off and cause the misroute, where the ESInet was hearing it, and it was random as to whether it was the first digit, the last digit, or a digit somewhere in the middle.
That's true. And then that's when I think last week we raised some of the audio levels on the when the DTMF tones go out, What we did is we raised the volume or the dB on the gateways so that hopefully those numbers get, so the ESInet hears them better or captures them better. Sorry, not hears them, but captures them better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
and we had shared those logs with Motorola, I think. Do you need any test sessions set up just to test a bunch of transfers?
So right now what we're doing is we get plenty of calls from the hill, from
Okay.
the mountain. So we're kind of tracking those right now.
And have
But
you seen any more transfer issues since you made that change?
We've seen a couple, not as many as we used to. So maybe we have to tweak something else.
Well, because I can also reach out to the ESInet team and ask them if they can turn up their ears.
Oh, that'll be great.
That's not the technical term, but it's what we worked with the
Yeah, you guys-
KP8 issue at Vail originally. We had to turn up our hearing aid.
Yeah, if you guys, I think you guys helped us with that a little bit, doing some captures. And so,
Yeah, and I know we tweaked the settings before a couple of times, but it didn't seem to make a difference. So I think we went back to the original. But if you've made a change at your side, I'll reach out to them to see if they can turn those up again to whatever the.
that will be really helpful. I appreciate that.
So Cindy, will you be coordinating directly with Jerry then when that's done, so then they can do some more testing?
Yeah, because we may want to get on the call when we make that change, just to make sure when we change it, we're not causing too much feedback or anything with that change.
Do you change it globally for them, or can you change it per SIP session?
It's a global setting, but it's a fast one to tweak. So if it causes feedback, we can switch it, dial it back down.
Okay, and so you'll be in touch with Jerry so you guys can coordinate and schedule this when hopefully it's slow, so ahead of the slopes opening, I'm sure.
Yeah, and Jerry, I know for you busy is like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Tuesday is one of your slower days. Is that right?
Yes, Tuesday, Wednesday.
So I thought, okay. So I'll see if I can get something set up for this next Tuesday or Wednesday with them.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Great. Does anybody else have an open item that they're tracking that we did not cover?
Kimberly, I joined late. Did we talk about late fees?
No, that's under old business. So
Gotcha.
we will definitely, we'll tackle that, Bruce. Absolutely.
Kimberly, this is Mandy.
Yes, Mandy.
I put it in the chat and I'm not exactly certain if it's going to be an issue or not. We're looking into it, but we had an issue yesterday with transferring from 911 to a 10-digit number. And we put in a ticket with CenturyLink and the tech came out, believes it to be more of an issue on the receiving end side of it. So essentially here in Montrose, when we transfer to State Patrol, we have to transfer to the 10-digit numbers because their two concurrent call sessions are slated for San Juan County, and they would prefer us here in Montrose not to tie up those lines for incidents that are not in San Juan County. So we transferred to a 10-digit line, and we couldn't get the call to go through a couple times yesterday. The tech thought that perhaps it was a problem at CSP, and in that they disconnected a line or they don't have an active one, and so their rollover setup that they have on their non-emergency lines was the problem, but we're still verifying it. I just wanted to bring it up in case that isn't the issue, because when it was first reported yesterday to me, I thought perhaps it was an ESInet issue since other PSAPs are having this.
Great. Thanks, Mandy. Please let us know what they find as they continue to look into this.
Okay, thanks.
Mandy, just a quick question as we're looking at it. Do you know if you're using the ESInet to handle those transfers or if you're using your admin lines? And I'll need to go back and look. Because there could also be an issue if all your admin lines were tied up when you went to make that transfer, that there wasn't a line to grab. Sorry, you're muted still.
So I was just talking to myself. I don't know the answer to that off of the 911s. Matt, do you know how it was configured? I know, when we're not on 911s, how they're handled, but not transfers out of the 911 system. Matt, do you remember how that was set up?
I don't, but I do know you have so many admin lines. I don't think that that's the issue.
They couldn't have been all tied up. Okay.
Well, and wouldn't it, if she's going 911 to 10-digit, the transfer is going to take place at the IP selective router and then come in on that 10-digit line. So
Yeah.
the transfer is going to be happening in the ESInet to hand it off to the 10-digit. Correct?
Yeah, there was a couple of ways in sites we could set it up, and most of the sites did choose to go back through the ESInet on the transfers, but some of them, the call handling equipment would actually seize an admin line and send it out through an admin line and not back through the ESInet.
Cindy, how would we know how we're set up? Would that be
I'll need to go back and find the notes on the testing because it was call handling equipment dependent on on how that call handling equipment handled that transfer.
Okay.
And just from a big picture perspective, and I'm sure this could be a little bit time consuming, but are you able to generate a list to let us know if we have who in our state selected to do a 911 to 10-digit and use their CPE to then redirect it and not go and do the transfer at the ESInet? If we have that information, that could also help in troubleshooting and people's time, then
Yeah,
they wouldn't engage them and they would engage their own folks.
Yeah, I can see what I can pull together with the caveat being that they could have changed that configuration and never said anything because it is at the call handling level and nothing on the ESInet would block it. But I can pull together what we originally tested.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great if you could do that.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, that was all. I just wanted to think for a minute on what could have caused your issues with the transfer yesterday.
And just for clarification, when the CenturyLink tech came out, he believes that the problem is we tried transferring to so CSP's receiving 10-digit number, and that number was busy on their end. So running into that, and then their calling tree or their call handling on their end diverted that call from the 10-digit number that we dialed to another one of their 10-digit numbers that was set up, and it too was busy. So then it hit their fax machine. He thinks that was the sequence of events. They wanted to do some testing. I don't know if anybody from CSP is on the line, but he didn't circle back to us to tell us how that went. But when we find out,
yeah, we probably don't want their fax machine in the decision tree for.
Oh, sure, and yeah. So again, I agree with Kimberly, kind of having an idea of how that works helps troubleshoot some of those things so we don't have to fight with stuff we already know.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else have an open item that they're struggling with? Okay, we'll move into old business. So Wes, we have 3 items called out here for old business that we were hoping to get just a status update from text to 911, ECATS, and spatial call routing.
Sure. Text to 911, we had a little bit of a breakthrough. I hope to have substantially more detail here in about 10 days to talk about when we have our meeting up in your office, actually. So I think we're going to have a positive outcome to enable the text to 911. It is dependent upon Entrado taking a look at how they handle their current contracts and how that can be massaged into amortizing out the value of their current text to 911 contracts and running things over the ESInet. So I can't really elaborate on that at this point, but that's being discussed. That is in Entrado's hands, though. And both sides really want to make this work, Kimberly. So hopefully we'll have an answer for you.
Okay, and just a comment on that, Wes, one of the pieces from a diversity perspective, when you're having those conversations with Entrado, for agencies that perhaps want to keep their current connectivity for text up and also allow text to come through the ESInet, just again to diversify that delivery. So when call voice is down, text perhaps can still route correctly. if you can just explore that with Intrado in your conversations, because I know there's a few that have already discussed that offline.
Yes, I know. And I remember Bruce brought that up a couple months ago when we talked about that.
Yeah.
So, hey, got you covered, Bruce. Trying to make it happen. The ECATS, Tim Kunkelman has got some verbiage there being reviewed to also talk about that here in the upcoming weeks that I think will work for everybody. And so we're moving forward with that. And I think that the cost and the price and the wording on that should be amenable for everybody to peruse that. And I trust approve it going forward. Spatial call routing, actually I have a call right after this with Intrado, still pushing ahead on that. That's a little bit of a heavier lift, I think, because of the complexity of GIS, taking a look at uploading the data for the entire state. There's a cost for that we're going to have to discuss, and we will be working through that again in the group as a whole. And then, of course, if that gets approved, then university throughout the state looking at the transitional data management service on an ongoing basis with Intrado.
Great, thank you. Anybody have questions for Wes on those 3 items? Okay, the next item would be the LA hardware update and just the status of that project. I don't know if Vicki is able to just update you, Cindy, or if maybe the mute issue has been resolved. Or Wes, maybe you know?
I know that they're still replacing that. I think that they've got some supply chain issues there. Is Vicki not on the call? Cindy, is that still accurate?
Yeah, I think what they did the migration the end of last year. So I just want to confirm they're completely done.
Yeah,
I believe that is done.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I know ours went and it was good. It was a successful project. I just wasn't sure if it was done for the entire state.
We'll have to check on that, Kimberly.
Okay.
I'm simply not sure that was completed.
Okay. Great. If you could please just get back to us, that would be wonderful. And then the next item is officer elections. So we do have the NG911 Strategic Plan Workshop on January 24th up here in our facility at LIDA. So looking forward to that in-person discussion. Please make sure you RSVP so we can have a good head count. We will be honoring social distancing, and we have a large enough space that we can accommodate. And if we need to, we can break up the in-person groups too. I do think there's a lot of value for the in-person collaboration and discussion. But for those of you that can't make the trip, because I know it's not in your backyard, we will have virtual options as well. And we do have good audio, so you should be able to hear everybody fine and feel like you're here in person. So just have that on your radar. And then the biggest piece of that meeting is officer election. So I'm done with my term, and we need someone to chair this group. So please come. Please plan on having a voice. And if you don't come, then you may be the chair for the next meeting, because we may just vote you in. So good motivation to come.
And masks will be required if you're in person.
Yep.
If you're not in person, they're optional.
Thanks for that, Daryl. So we do have an indoor mask mandate up here in Larimer County, and it will still be in place on January 24th. Okay, billing late fees. So Wes, we've continued to have billing and late fee issues. And so we've had some folks that have been trying to resolve those, and they're getting late fees on their bills, even though their bills may not be delivered in a timely manner or even to the right location. So could you give us an update on the status of those bill issues?
Yeah, I'm glad to take each and every one of those on. So when that happens, let's see, we just fixed Garfield this morning, and Archuleta will also be fixed due to the, something happened I quite simply can't explain, folks, but some of these addresses, after the manual billing got done, still got skewed around. And I don't have a good answer for you. But if you have a late fee on that ESInet, email me, call me, and we'll jump on it. I think they're all being relieved, to my knowledge. Everyone that I've touched has been. So just let me know.
And we did have a similar problem, and we never received our bill. We had late fees, and it did get resolved very fast, and we were able to get everything reconciled and taken care of. So does anybody have any questions for Wes on their billing woes?
Wes, if
Wes,
we
thank
do,
you. This
Go
is
ahead,
Carl.
Carl.
I asked someone that's people on the agenda. I haven't seen those bills yet, and hopefully they're fixed the way I wanted them done.
Yeah, they're supposed to email you on that, Carl. I followed up on our phone call the other day and sent you an email on that. But yeah, I understand the urgency in your case that it has to be done by the 15th. So I trust that I will follow up with them, make sure they're emailing those two to you.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody else was also right behind you. Is there another?
Yeah, Wes, it's Bruce. I was just curious if we do get a late fee and reach out to you, do you want us to go ahead and process the invoice minus that late fee and let that process work out, or how should we handle those?
No, I need to kind of see that late fee, and then I kind of start knocking things around internally. So I think it works better if they credit back to you, Bruce, as opposed to you short paying. It works for the process better.
Okay. We seem to have gotten our process worked out internally to get them paid much quicker. However, this month I think we'll have an issue because purchase orders are generally, my blanket purchase orders for the entire year take a little while to get processed. So I don't know if I'm going to get that one paid by the due date or not.
I understand. You know where to find me.
Great, thank you. So the next item on our agenda is just questions, concerns from the PSAPs to Lumen. So anybody have any other item that they would like to bring forward that we didn't already discuss? Okay, and then from the Lumen team to us. So Wes, Cindy, and I think Tim's on as well. Anybody have anything that needs our immediate action or follow up ahead of our meeting on the 24th?
I do not have any.
I didn't have anything either.
Okay, great. And then public comment. So anybody that's joined us today that is not a voting member, this would be your opportunity to address anything with us or with Lumen. Okay, so then that brings us up to adjournment. So I anticipate that the next chair will be able to officially take over at the next meeting and run the meetings within that 45-minute time period. So we're setting the bar kind of high to move through all of our items. So thank you everyone for getting on today. I appreciate the conversation. I think we tackled a lot. We have some open items that we need to get through. So hopefully those follow-ups will happen quickly. And again, please consider joining us on January 24th. And have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Kimberly, for all your work for us.
Yeah, you bet. I'm looking forward to passing the torch to you, Matt.
No. I appreciate the sentiment, but no.
Thanks, everyone.